be where your feet are. You can't be upset about the past. You can't be thinking about the future. You're going to get hurt if you're not where your feet are, which means you have to be present. And when I got into business, I have to understand that, okay, I can't be focused on the future. I have to be here in the now. So this idea of just being present and running the play, just like we would in sport, is actually really valuable for people that are in business, because what it does is it allows you to actually say, okay, am I showing up in this moment the way that I want to be represented?
If you're not doing the practice, it's like it doesn't matter. The game doesn't matter. Like, you're not gonna be able to play the game if you're not doing the work, if you're not training, you're not eating the right foods, you're not doing all of that stuff. And if that's like one of the greatest things that you have to offer the world, is this gift that's inside of you, and you're not doing the work so that you can do more of the gift, it's like, wow, what the heck? How irresponsible are we?
Where the expert finds fun is in the fundamentals. And yet the person who has not got to that level is trying to jump ahead. And it's the same thing when you build a business, right? You're expecting your customers to go from just meeting you to buying your biggest product. And what you're asking them to do is take this leap of faith that you are as valuable as what you say. You need to build a business in layers versus leaps.
On episode 469, dude, of the podcast, we talk about why you'll get more, why you'll get paid more when clients actually understand the creative process behind your work. We talk about how to beat perfectionism paralysis by shipping content fast and learning what actually lands, and then the AAA framework for business growth: attention, attraction, and I'm not going to tell you the third one. You've got to listen to this episode. Here we go. Okay, friend, I am a child of the, like late 70s, 80s. What does that make me a child of? Like, I'm on the tail end of Gen X. And if you didn't get the reference, the movie reference at the intro, man, you missed out on an incredible decade in one of my favorite movies of all time, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Oh my gosh. I'm certain that after watching that movie, the conversations with my friends for the next who knows how many months was like, excellent. Whoa. Yes, it was the greatest generation, I think, right? Am I right here? Welcome. This is the Grow Your Video Business Show. I'm your host, Ryan Corral. I'm grateful to have you here, especially if you're still here after all of that. This is a great episode. Really, really powerful stuff. Welcome to my world if you're here for the first time. If you are here for the first time or you are a returning friend, I have something very, very special, brand new that I want to share with you. I am breaking down a six-figure budget that we booked with a client. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you how we did it, and hopefully you walk away inspired and with some new tools and resources that can help you maybe charge six figures or just be more confident in your pricing and budgeting and all that stuff. You can get access to this by going to studiosherpas.com/100K. So yeah, there's that. That's my gift to you. Hopefully you check that out. And meanwhile, we have an entire episode full of goodness for you. So get comfortable, lock in, take some notes or whatever, and we'll see you inside the episode. Let's roll the tape. Here we go. What's up, friend? Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. Today with me is Justin Kavanaugh, also known as Coach Cav, who is the CEO of Sites at Scale. Justin, Coach, I didn't ask you, which one should I call you? Just call you both?
You call me whatever you want. I've heard worse. Let's just say that.
I'll call you whatever I want, but I'm not going to call you late to this podcast interview. Huh?
That works. As long as you don't call me late to dinner, I'm happy.
Well, hey, man, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking time to hang out with me and in our peeps here.
Me too as well. I appreciate it. And it seems like I'm already going to school. So like always be a student is the rule of today, since you schooled me on how to set up my stuff properly and frankly, you've made my life easier in the first 5 minutes of me connecting. So that works. Especially, I'm in the technology space, I'm in the creator space, and every once in a while, I want to throw it out the window.
Hmm.
And I appreciate people like you that just like, you know what? Robots listen to me better than they listen to you. Let me fix it for you. So you did a good job. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the start of my career, sort of, I got into video production. In the first 6 months, I took on any job that there was. And then I fell into wedding filmmaking. And so for a whole bunch of years, we're going on site to the people's most important day of their lives, and everything goes wrong. It's like, oh, it's cloudy today. Oh, it's raining. Oh, somebody didn't show up. Oh, and so everything is just about pivoting. And, as a producer, it's like, no, we're going to make it work. Like, no sweat. Like, we will make the best of whatever the situation is. But having to learn how to shoot in terrible light, no light, sunlight, indoor, multicolor light, and terrible audio, wind, all of the things. So, and then the gear fails and it messes up, and it's just like, okay, well, you just roll with it. And so I think I have thick skin when it comes to that stuff, but there are plenty of times where I just want to, throw the things as well. So you're not alone there, my friend.
Well, what are you going to do? Be like, hey, I'm sorry. I missed the kiss and let's reschedule. You got to make it happen.
Oh, I did get sued one time.
Wow.
From a bride. And she was actually a person in the wedding industry. So somebody that we had kind of worked with. So it was like so awkward, but we filmed, this is confessions of a wedding filmmaker, former wedding filmmaker. I had I think at least two people filming this wedding, and we got a shot of the bride and her dad walking up to the aisles outdoors. So it was like kind of just wonky layout anyway, up to the aisle and starting to walk down the aisle. And then like, as everybody stood up, my one camera guy, he didn't have a good shot because everybody stood up. And then the guy in the front, similar situation. I can't really remember. This is like forever ago. So we did not get her the entire walk of her from, the aisle to the end of the aisle. I don't know. We got 20% of it, maybe. So we gave them the first cut of the video, and the compliments were just like through the roof. Like, this is the best, this is amazing. It was whatever. And then 4 months later, when we deliver everything, we get a call back, and it's like, very unhappy. We want all of our money back. And I'm like, wait, what?
I want the 17 steps that I took down the aisle. Yeah. So I think it's funny. I grew up and I'm an athlete, so I wasn't able to have a real job, like was working like after school and spend more than like 4 or 5 hours. I had to compress all of my hours into a weekend or into a time slot that worked for my lifestyle when I was growing up. So since I was in middle school all through high school, I was a DJ.
Oh,
And
dude,
because I mean, I played
DJ
sports. So
Kev.
I'm the ones and twos. I wouldn't do that today. But I learned in wedding DJing. I'm a football coach by trade and working at the Olympic level. Everything has to be organized. So I'm a little OCD when it comes to a practice script. But where I learned the most attention to detail is actually in the wedding business DJing, because you could set the mood really well when you're doing that. And we would get these pictures back from the wedding photographers, not the video guys. But there was streaks on the mirrors. There was like the stuff that you couldn't do in post-production back then, because we don't have AI and technology today that we did then. It's, back then it was like, you better get a good shot because you're not going to be able to cover it up. Right. So, I learned all of that little OCD of like setting the stage the right way and making it perfect, and how far the creator and content game has come is like those imperfections is actually what makes those moments worth it. Whereas back then it was like this perfect shot is what makes somebody feel good.
Yeah, dude. It's like, for the first like 8 or 9 years, I built this high-end luxury wedding filmmaking brand, getting hired by the Ford family and, just like all these like really iconic families. And so it all had to be perfect, which was great, right? Like we figured out how to make itineraries and figure out like where do we need to be, and when we didn't get the 16 steps, we figured out how do we get that next time or whatever. But then when we transitioned in 2012, we started having kids and really just had a desire to like I need to have like a retirement plan here, and shooting weddings 5 or 6 months out of the year that's not it. So we need to add more revenue. And so we started working with corporations and businesses and nonprofits and trying to film stuff Monday through Friday instead of Saturdays. And as we did that, I took on that same mentality of like, everything has to be perfect. And dude, it has taken me, 2012, that's like 13 years ago at this point. It's taken me like 12 of those 13 years to realize that what I would aim for, delivering to a client would be like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. And what I've realized is that our corporate clients, not that they want something that's crappy, but their 5 or 6, my 5 or 6 out of 10 is their like 9 or 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we overcomplicate things because we're masters of our craft in the world of sports performance or training executives at a high level. Like, you want to be able to showcase the 10, 20 years of experience into a singular skill. And when you do that, oftentimes you overcomplicate things, but in reality, the level of mastery has, different components to it. And one of the gaps that people run into is the communication of your mastery, which is about the simplicity of the other person understanding. A long time ago, as a coach, I'm pretty aggressive and rough, direct to the point. I truly believe that my problem is not what I say. It's your inability to understand. Like, I'm responsible for what comes out of my mouth, not what goes into your brain.
Yeah.
And I realized that wasn't true in coaching. It was when it comes to a dictatorship. It was when it comes to getting something done, and you could control those results, but you're not dealing with robots. You're dealing with humans and emotion and a bunch of other variations. Some of them, have thin skin. And what we found is like our ability to communicate simply is a representation of how well we know the complex. And I think that we have to be able to do that today. Whereas in the early part of my career, I didn't care. It was square peg, round hole. Doesn't matter. It's going through.
Yep. Yeah. That's it's like, even when you start thinking about clients and how you approach discovery calls and then even trying to figure out, not every opportunity is the right opportunity. Not every client and not everybody who reaches out, should you be just trying to figure out how to work with them? It's like, no. Should you be working with them? Right? There's all the nuances in communication and trying to understand, is this person a good fit? Do we vibe? And then if so, then it's like, okay, now can we serve them? Can we help them? But the way that you ask questions, it shouldn't be the same every single. Sure, you have the same framework in what you're going to use, but you need to be able to pivot and to adjust accordingly. Hey, quick timeout. If you're listening to this show because you want to grow your video business, but you feel like you're spinning your wheels doing everything yourself, and you're wondering why it's not getting easier, listen up. I've been there multiple times throughout running this business. The bottleneck, feeling burnt out, the late night, what's next, panic, what did I forget? That's exactly why I started the Studio Sherpas Mastermind a few years ago. This is a small group of just 12 video business owners who are done figuring it out alone. Some members have doubled and even tripled their revenue. Others have hit over $1 million for the first time in business. In this group, we talk strategy, profit, we go over systems and hiring and mindset, all of the things that actually move the needle. So if you're serious about scaling your studio without losing your sanity, apply now at studiosherpas.com/mastermind. Don't keep doing this thing solo. The climb is a lot easier with Sherpas by your side. Again, it's studiosherpas.com/mastermind. All right, let's jump back into the show.
I got one of the best pieces of advice from a friend of mine. I've known him for well over a decade now. He's like the old school marketing genius. His name's Joe Polish. And, Joe was like, hey, you've kind of earned the right to kind of pick and choose who you work with, but
Yeah.
you're kind of showing up with the half energy. You're not like
Mm.
100% and you're not all in. And that's not
Yeah.
who I am. I'm
Yeah.
an all in guy.
Yeah.
I'm a be all in guy. I believe that in order to get better, you got to play the game. You got to get the reps in, but you can't be anywhere else. You have to be where your feet are. And I was
Yeah.
showing up half. And he's like, you have a half business. If you show up half, you show up as a half business. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, you want an elf business. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, when you show up half, you attract half clients, and half clients stand for hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating customers. And those are not the ones that are the profitable ones in your business. Those are not the ones that are easy to deal with because you want
Yeah.
an elf business. And I said, "Oh God, Joe, what are you going to tell me now?" And he's like, "Easy, lucrative, and fun. That's
Mm.
what you want to do."
Ooh.
And it makes you when you show up for elf clients, you get to show up as 100%. You're your whole person. You're
Yeah.
you're the best version of who you are, which means you're going to be attracting the best versions of what your ideal customers are. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a eye opener for me who's had at the time, like in our digital marketing agency, we had 1,000 plus clients, and we've actually trimmed that list down. Right now we care for 531 businesses, and we want to make them the best at what they do, but we've had
Yeah.
to trim our roster down to provide better value because not every one of those customers that were paying us served our mission.
Yeah.
And the minute that we did that, the minute that we adjusted, we made a huge difference in actually how we showed up and the product that we were able to deliver.
Yeah. Dude, I love that. That's easy, lucrative, and fun. I'm going to get that tattoo. That's what I want to be, but also that's what I want my clients to be. This is so relatable. If you would have asked me a year ago, Ryan, you've been doing this business for 20 years, from the outside, from what we see, it looks like it's going great. Like, how do you feel about it? How's it going? I'd be like, dude, if it burned down tomorrow, don't care. I'm fine with that. So that was Ryan showing up half. For
Yeah.
you, and let me just say this too. Typically, most filmmakers that I know, they get in the business, they love it. It's like, oh, I get to make something and people love it. And the feedback I'm getting, this is really cool. And I get to buy cool gear and improve. Look at my shot. It went from this to this. This is amazing. But then you get into like, okay, I gotta figure out how to find new clients. And then I should probably be charging more because I've got all this experience and all this like better equipment and stuff, but I don't have the confidence. I don't have good frameworks or systems or whatever. So then we get stuck. And then I think for us that is when we would tend to show up half, right? So for you, like what was the thing that made you showing up like that? Because I would guess that when you started, you were all in and it was like fun and easy and that was kind of what you were attracting. But then there was a shift, even if it was subtle.
Well, I'll start with this. My background is in high performance sports. So I have been to 6 Olympics as a coach. I've worked at be the coffee run boy to, the small piece of the puzzle at the Olympic Games to I'm the head coach and leading a country into the Olympics as the head coach for, the sport. You are responsible for everything. And even if you don't necessarily have your hand in every part of the development of an athlete, you're responsible for how everything goes. So I've seen it from every angle at the Olympic level. And that's where I started my career. And I've been in pro sports for 23 years. I'm only at the highest level.
Yeah.
There is no, showing up, 98%. And you have to understand that even like from a warm up standpoint with the physical body, if you warm up the body to 98%, 99%, like when you go to push the limit, you're going to get hurt because you're not fully prepared.
Yeah.
But if you over warm up and you do 101% and 102%, you're actually tapping into your resources to show what you could do in that full race day, meaning that you're like overworked and you're not able to be like zoned in, you can't get into flow state. So
Yeah.
there's this point of you got to get so close to the line without crossing it that you really figure out where your limit is and you understand like what's that line of like a sweet spot. And I've taken that same approach to to business. So in the work of sport that I do, it's about tapping into this like potential that people don't even know exists. And I'm a big believer of like, be where your feet are. You can't be upset about the past. You can't be thinking about the future. You're going to get hurt if you're not where your feet are, which means you have to be present. And when I got into business, I have to understand that, okay, I can't be focused on the future. I have to be here in the now. So this idea of just being present and running the play, just like we would in sport, is actually really valuable for people that are in business, because what it does is it allows you to actually say, okay, am I showing up in this moment the way that I want to be represented? Am I showing up for a podium performance, even if this even if this is just a practice? Because where you get better in sport is not actually playing the game. Where you get better in sport is in practice. And most people are not willing to like train and drill to work on their game. And then what you do is you're testing, your levels, like your limits and levels in different aspects of the game, and there's different risk tolerances. In business, you don't want to gamble with your customers, so what you do is you practice behind the scenes and then you show up prepared. I have not necessarily always been excited about work in the business aspect of things, because what I really want to do is showcase my craft. But in order to get that opportunity, I had to do the business part. I had to do the sales, the marketing, the operations, the finance, the things that maybe are not as enjoyable for me. But if I don't have that stuff organized and dialed in, I don't actually get to be the role that I enjoy the most, which is like this kind of creative space. So I always kind of think about this as the lens of the athlete. Can I be where my feet are? Because if I'm looking back or I'm looking ahead, I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hit with what's in front of me. And I think a lot of creators have the same issue. Whatever it is that you do, if you're a master of your craft and you really enjoy it, sometimes you don't want to make it your job. But like, what a life is that? You get to do what you love for work. And in the work of sports, I've never worked a day in my life. I've loved what I do. It's tough. It's hard. I want to do the hard things because I know that actually makes me better. But I actually get energy from when I run into a roadblock in the sport world. Where I get exhausted is when I run into a roadblock in business. And I have to kind of shift my mindset to go, okay, what happens if I just approach this like it was a game? And I could like learn through the failures of the game and then back up and then watch game film, see it through that perspective, and then go back and be like, all right, let's correct my mistakes. Because what we don't want in business is not necessarily mistakes. It's repeated errors. That's the problem. So advice number one is be where your feet are. And then number two is to be all in, because if you're not all in, you will tend to show up a little bit less. And clients are like dogs, are like babies. They could sense that. So if you show up scared, if you show up and not confident, they're gonna think there's a problem on your end. That's why you always do like a mic check and a sound check and like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, that sounds great, thanks. And it's just these little things about people behind the lens that make the person show up in front of the lens incredible.
Oh man, this is really good. It reminds me of when I go from sitting down with couples and like, it's so easy to like tell me your love story, how you fell in love, like, why do you want a wedding film? Like what would, who's important in your life? It's just like gushy, easy. The sale is like, it's just so easy. Then I transition to working with businesses and I'm going into corporations and I'm sitting in front of the CEO and all these people at a boardroom table thing. This is my first experience like in the business world. And I feel like I need to show up talking in business terms. And I'm like, I don't know what KPIs are. I don't know what ROIs are. I don't know what these things are, but I need to, fake it till I make it here. But I would sit there and I would just like, okay, what should we talk about? I probably wouldn't say that, but like my agenda was like, I need to figure out like how much money they've got to spend, because they're going to hire me. Right. And oh my gosh, so awkward until I landed on a framework. When I go to these meetings, I need to set the agenda. Hey, here's what my goal is for today. This is what, I want to cover and this will be success for me. What will be success for you? Anything here that I didn't cover or mention, and I write that stuff down. I started applying that framework. And then I remember one of the first meetings that I had where I was like, okay, I'm going to do the framework. I'm going to walk people through this thing. And at my seat, and I brought my creative director with me, at both of our seats, there were the outline of the agenda for the day. And I'm like, what the heck? Not for the day, for like the 60-minute like meeting.
Yeah, for the meeting.
And I'm like, what? This is their agenda. And so they're like, okay, so ready to begin. And let's start with the agenda. And I interrupted politely. I said, hey, I know this is great. This is really, really helpful. Can I just share real quick, like what our agenda is? And they're like, oh yeah, certainly. And so I shared, and then they were like, oh, this is great. We've had so many meetings like this before where the creative just came in and we just felt like because they just kind of sat there. It was awkward and they didn't really know where to go. So we just figured we'll tell you all the things and then you tell us how much it costs or whatever. The fact that you have this, agenda, and this is great. We didn't even go over anything that was on their outline. And that client ended up being a multi-6-figure client. So much trust was built, and that just kind of like nailed the nail in the coffin, whatever that saying is. That was where I was just like, this makes all the difference. Showing up with confidence and like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And if we need to pivot, like that's fine. But just know that this is where I want to take us. Does that sound good with you?
When you show up prepared, it basically immediately sets the tone of professionalism for the other party, and it makes them show up prepared because the energy gets mirrored. Have you ever read the book or seen the movie The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have his hair, right? Like I think that I'm a little jealous, right? Like the bald guy in me is like, you got that beautiful, luscious hair.
Thank you.
And I remember reading the book, and I took a test, and I think it was middle school or high school.
Yeah.
And the question on the test was like, to the ballroom event, does he show up on time? Was the question. And I remember reading the book, and I said, no, he was late. And I got the question wrong. My brain's not playing jokes on me. I know he was late. And if you read the book, it says the clock struck the time. So at the hour, whether it be 9, 10, or 12, or whatever it may be. And here comes the Count of Monte Cristo, and he walks in at the clock right away. And it was this unveiling of a moment where he is just precise of timing. I grew up, my dad's a firefighter. Being on time is 5 minutes late. So for me, I'm like, of course he's late. Because like in a football meeting, if you show up late, like they shut the door, So this idea of like being on time was late to me when I was a kid. And I thought about it and go, I'm late all the time.
Yeah.
How did I get this question wrong? And I remember like, well, it's not necessarily the way you think about it. When you show up prepared and you're showing up on time, you immediately position the other person as someone who's like, all right, now I need to show up with more energy because they do. And if you show up where the other people are waiting on you, then what ends up happening, in my opinion, what ends up happening is they tend to like not give you their full self.
Yeah.
And I don't want that as a limitation. So for me, one of my strategies is always like, how do I get the other person to show up more prepared and more confident? And it's like when you work with kids in sport, you tell them 3 things. Like number 1, be on time. Number 2, be prepared. And number 3, be honest. Because if you're on time, you're creating a buffer zone. If you're prepared, then you show that level of respect. And if you are honest, you don't have to deal with 2 problems. The first problem is maybe you know or don't know the answer and how you deal with it. But the second problem is if you lied or if you present something as if and it's not, what ends up happening is now I have to decide every other word that you're telling me, where does this fit? What's the bucket I got to put you in? And that's a very exhausting relationship when you deal with it from the other end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that reminds me of, this is an embarrassing story, but the first kind of like business mastermind I was a part of was a local group, and it started at like 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. And it was a little bit of a drive. It was probably 10 minutes or so from my studio. But like there's a lot of stoplights. And I remember I probably was showing up on time, multiple times, or maybe like 1 or 2 minutes late or whatever. It wasn't a big deal. Until it was a big deal. And the woman that was leading the group, she just said, hey, Ryan, before we jump in, what kind of, when you came into the office, what was the energy like in the room? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like, people are kind of ready to go. And she's like, yeah, yeah. And then she points to the one guy. She's like, he got here like 10 minutes, before we were supposed to start. And so guess what? Like, I'm the facilitator. He got like 10 minutes of my time, just like one-on-one, because he was early. And then you come in, and what kind of energy do you have? And you're like, you're talking about the 2 red lights, and like, it's just like, and you're kind of, getting in the seat and trying to get in. Everybody's already ready to go. And now we have to stop and wait for you to. I was so embarrassed and just like, oh my God. She's like, why do you think that your time is more valuable than everybody else's here? And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm paying to be in this group. But man, that was such a good teaching moment for me. And I'm still definitely far from perfect on being on time, but man, it's
all about growth. And for me, I'm the same way. I'm late everywhere, to be very frank with you. The difference I would say is in the position that I'm in, I'm bouncing from places to places, and I need other people to be prepared so that I could show up and be my best version of myself. But I also understand my role. As an elite athlete, if you want to be successful, they understand, number one, they know self-awareness. They know who they are. And then number two is they know their role. And then number three, they understand the team dynamic and how they fit within that environment. And when I'm going into meetings, or if I'm like, I think that I need to spend more time with somebody, I have to have somebody that's telling me like, hey coach, time to get out. Like, we got to go, we got to go. Like, or, hey, you got to shut that down. And I'll push them back and be like, this conversation's more valuable for me, the company, and the direction of the business than being on time to that next meeting.
Yeah.
However, if they're showing up and they're not prepared, when I go into that environment, like, I can't give them the most because they're not prepared. So it's all about environments and the situation. When I'm in pro sports, if I'm in the NFL or if I'm at the Olympic environments, like, I have no choice. It's a non-negotiable to be on time. That you will not have a job if you're not on time. It just doesn't exist. I was late to the first NFL meeting in over 2 decades last season. You're from Detroit, so you could laugh at this. I'm a Miami boy. I live in Northern Virginia now, but I'm a Miami boy. I'm not a snow guy. And somebody cut me off in Buffalo, and I basically hit the brakes, and then I had to like press the gas to try to not hit 3 other people, and went right into the sidewall. And it was pretty funny because like the cop comes over and tries to help me, and he's like, hey, do you mind if I help you? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Miami. He's like, give me the keys. Like, you're not prepared for this. But I'll never forget this moment. But one of the guys says, Cav, I knew something was wrong because I've never pulled up to the facility and not seen your car before mine.
Wow.
And it was a good moment because it was like, wait a second, like, I'm someone who's always rushing where I need to go. But in that environment, because of the status, the role, and my seniority, I have to be there and be prepared because it shows a level of respect for my role and for the other people that are coming in there to protect the millions of dollars of athletes that are going to be on the field on Sundays, that I'm prepared and I'm ready for them. And it makes them feel like that they're more important than anything else that they have going on in their life, because they could leave that out the door because I'm ready and I'm all in with them.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. I want to just go back to the idea of practicing a little bit more. You're talking about the role that you enjoy most, right? The thing that you get to do, there's that. And so in the world of filmmaking, it's like, man, creating these, capturing these beautiful moments, but then like telling that story and then like, watching people watch it and like smile or laugh or cry or whatever those things are. Like, those are the things that we live for. The things that drive us crazy is like going to a conference room and sitting down and trying to convince somebody that they should invest in this thing that we're going to say, well, I can't really prove ROI on it. So, but will you spend $30,000 on it? Is that cool? Like, we don't like that stuff. We don't like cold calling or cold emailing or trying to convince anybody of anything. Like, that's just not. But here's what's true. And I think of my wife. She's a fine artist. My 10-year-old jokes, or she doesn't joke. She's like, why does your business card say fine artist, Mom? You're actually really good. You're better than just fine. Yeah. So anyway, but my wife is an amazing painter, but she hates the business side of all of the things. She's like, I just want people to hire me because the work is good. I post on Instagram. It's there. I don't even like posting on Instagram because that takes away from the time that I can be creating. We resonate with this. I resonate with that. But the thing is, like, if she doesn't show up on the business side of the things, if she's not trying to reach out to other interior designers, going to, some networking meetings, following up on emails, just doing the things that seem mundane, like you were kind of talking about, if you're not doing the practice, it's like it doesn't matter. The game doesn't matter. Like you're not going to be able to play the game if you're not doing the work, if you're not training, you're not eating the right foods, you're not doing all of that stuff. And if that's like one of the greatest things that you have to offer the world is this gift that's inside of you, and you're not doing the work so that you can do more of the gift, it's like, wow, what the heck? How irresponsible are we? And not treasuring this thing that we know that is so uniquely crafted for us. And so I love that. I don't want it to go unnoticed, because we all think like, well, I just want my films to sell themselves, or I just want the craft. When people see me coaching, that's what I want. It's like, yeah, but I got to watch film. I got to watch, I got to think what's not working in my approach. I got to get feedback from other people to improve so that I can keep doing this, not just a one-off, but I want to keep doing this because I love it. I'm good at it. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that, if you look at some of the greatest coaches in history, you look at John Wooten, the great basketball coach from UCLA, the first thing that he would do is spend the first 30 minutes of practice in the beginning of the season teaching his college basketball players that are going to UCLA how to tie their shoes, how to put their socks on, and how to tie their shoes. Now, do you think that that made them a better basketball player? A lot of people say no. When you look at a boxer and you see them at the highest of levels, they're constantly, all of the people on Instagram, all of the people on social media and in the gyms that are the young ones and the coaches that have never reached the Canelos, the Mayweather level, the Pacquiao level, they're doing all this stuff that they think is fun. And yet the Pacquiao of the world is still literally doing the most basic footwork and the basic slip drills and the basic counters.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because where the expert finds fun is in the fundamentals. And yet the person who has not got to that level is trying to jump ahead. And it's the same thing when you build a business, right? You're expecting your customers to go from just meeting you to buying your biggest product. And what you're asking them to do is take this leap of faith that you are as valuable as what you say. You're asking them to take this leap of faith of you are as good as what you told me and sold me. And I think that you need to build a business in layers versus leaps. And I think about it in the same way of like Kevin Costner's great movie of Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. In business, if you build it, and you don't tell anybody, ain't nobody showing up. How ignorant of you to think that somebody is going to knock on your door and know what's inside of your house if you didn't show anybody what you have.
Oh, yeah.
You go to Tiffany's, you go to Rolex, you go to the nice, boutiques because what's inside, it's there because of the brand that's external that other people are wearing and people are talking about and people are showcasing to the world. You don't go inside of a building because you think that Hermes is there. You don't go inside of a building because you think that there's diamonds. You go in there because it says that they're diamonds. It goes in there because there's people telling you, showcasing the work. And the most powerful thing that we have is storytelling. And the best way to showcase your skill is not a testimonial of a story. It's actually showcase your work. So showcase your practice as creators. Showcase the difficulty of what you're doing. If you have 10, 20 years of experience, you also probably have 50, 60, $70,000 worth of wasted equipment that you bought because you couldn't afford the right stuff. And it slowly built up to the janky thing. And then you finally said, all right, I need to spend money on a $3,000 lens because the lens is not what makes me look good. It's the fact that the lens makes this efficient so I could actually get a consistent shot because I could be very artistic and get the angle with the lighting that's perfect because of my knowledge. But now with this lens, it allows me to focus more on actually the subject and getting the emotion out of them. So you should be looking this as a challenge as a creative business owner. And we are in the creative economy. And if you start thinking about like what is the most important role of of a CEO and what is the most important role of someone who's leading the company is to, number one, tell its story. Number two, lead the internal people through the vision that you have. And then number three, it's attract its team. And you can't do that without storytelling.
Yeah.
And if you are using kind of a half-baked internal team to tell its story, then you're not going to be able to showcase what you're really made out of. If are you a professional? If so, then you should be hiring the same level of professionals. And although we want to be like, hey, we're not there yet,
Yeah.
we're not going to get there if we still use the same thinking and tools, technology, and team members that where we are today. We have to start shooting above and beyond. And we may have to start like maybe looking at saying, okay, we can't afford like the big ticket producer to do this, but what can we do to kind of take that next step? And we need to start inching our way. Maybe what you do is you look at an entire yearly budget for a business and say, okay, I need to first tell my story, origin story, mission, vision, and values. And you do a 1 day shoot that's going to do this interview and do this. Cool. Now I have a service offering that is like my highest priority service. Maybe it's another 1 day shoot in Q2 where I just do this. But
Yeah.
by the end of the year, you're going to have a portfolio for your own business.
Yeah.
That will showcase you in the way that you want to be seen. This is why when we build websites for companies or when we build stories for companies, what we're trying to do is basically get them seen, because the race is not who is the best. The race is who's got the most attention.
Dude, I think you're reading my mail. I did a keynote a few weeks ago to a bunch of filmmakers, and my biggest challenge to them was, hey, number one, most people in this room are trying to sell brand stories. And 98% of you, maybe 99% of you, do not have your own brand story. How much easier would it be if you had your own story to be able to say, hey, we believe in this so much. I believe in this so much that we've taken the time, the energy, and done this for ourselves because we believe in it so much. I love that. I just want to touch on, I think we're getting there. We're talking about the importance of story, attracting team, attracting clients. You mentioned this before we hit record, is the importance of letting people in, right? We're not talking about perfectionism. We're inviting people to build this thing with us. What are your thoughts on that?
So in sport, when you show up to the line before the gun goes off, there's only one of two things that are going to happen. You're going to have this high level of anxiety, or you're going to have this adrenaline rush. Now, my academic background is in neuroscience. And if you look at the chemical breakdown in the brain of what takes place, anxiety and adrenaline show up the exact same. You can't tell actually at the biochemical level the differences between the two. What we see physically, what happens, and emotionally, what happens is that it's channeling the energy. So anxiety is overactivity of the brain, and adrenaline is this overactivity of the brain that's focused and channeled into a clear direction. And what happens is most people that have anxiety is because they're not moving. See, one thing that anxiety cannot catch up to is movement. It's the same thing with depression. Depression can't catch up to you if you're moving. If you are a sitting target, it's a lot easier to hit you. But if you're moving, it's very difficult for things to hit you. And normally, the things that hit you are things that are aiming for you. So if things aren't going your way in life, it's normally because you're not moving. It's the same concept when it comes to creative. When you're building a story, even your business's story, and you're not where you want to be, you're not Steven Spielberg. I'm a Guy Ritchie person. I believe that, I like the kind of, this shock and awe in the moment of the creative directive work. I enjoy this like subtle hints, and yet entirety of the work, there's still a through line, but you don't know when it's going to pop off. That to me is exciting. So whatever it is you're directing, you still need to make sure that you get that through line in your storyline, which is really, really important. But what's also important is that you show them that like in this section right here, look at me, like put all my effort into this one scene and the sound to like make this come to life, because the sound, the the animation, the lighting, this is the stuff that nobody sees that makes this thing beautiful, that changes the
Yeah.
emotional conviction of the person on the other end of the lens. And as an end consumer, I know what I like. I don't know how to make that happen.
Mm.
And if I work with a creative director like you, that's like, all right, listen, we got to, turn you this way, and here's why, and we have to like get another shot at this angle, because I already know what I'm gonna create is I'm gonna take these, first four steps, and then the crowd's gonna come up, and then I'm gonna get this other pan of you being there, and it's like this beautiful walk from, the dad walking his daughter down the aisle, and you're gonna only capture 20%, but the 20% is going to be the thing that tells the
Yeah.
story of this person kind of handing off his daughter to this beautiful kiss to the person of her dreams. And that at the director level. But as a consumer, they think they want every single step, and you're not getting it. So if you actually showcase the work and you say, hey, listen, I'm in this stage right now, and this is why
Yeah.
we're doing it, what's going to end up happening is people are going to appreciate you. And when somebody
Mm.
appreciates you, they'll pay you more, because
Yeah.
all relationships are won or lost at the expectation level. So you have to set the expectation of like, hey,
Mm.
I'm going through this journey with you. I'll show you what's going on. You're going to see some of it. But if they already know that because they met you on Instagram, or they met you in an environment, and they see that work, they're like, I know he's working. There's no doubt in their mind. And as a coach, our job is to like make sure there's no stone left unturned. So we want to make sure that we remove the mental weight of what are you doing. So if you're showcasing what you're doing before they meet you, they then basically go, okay, it may not be perfect, but it's going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you need to get it right, and then you'll get it perfect. And the only way you do that is you learn through progress.
Yeah.
You're not going to learn through thinking. You're going to learn through action.
Boom. Yeah, that's the best. That's the best. Yeah, drop that mic. Walk away, man. Don't walk away yet. Yes, I mean, there are so many things that I've wanted to launch and do, and that I've overthought it. I've planned it. I've written it out. I keep looking at it. I share it with other people. I go back to the drawing board, and then I don't do the thing. And it's like, man, to think that for the things that I have launched and put out there and gotten like feedback, I'm like, ooh, that was a little bit harsh, but how can I make it better if I don't get that, that constructive criticism, or not even constructive, but just like realize like, oh shoot, okay, yeah, this needs tweaks. But I think that's just super powerful advice. And unfortunately, whatever, for better or worse, it's taken me so long to realize like, it's fine. Just put it out there. Don't overthink it. Done is better than perfect. You got this. What's the worst that's going to happen? Right. It's like, it's not going to all burn down. And if it does,
Is it better than
build
what
something
you
else.
have today? Because when you look at your business right now, there's an issue with the fact that when they get there and they see you, it's not really telling the full story. And it's like, oh, I'm not happy with the way it's represented, but I'll just get to that later because I'm so focused on like crafting this beautiful story. But if you just put something out there and then you tested it, and then you're like, well, that landed. I would have never thought that would have landed. That didn't make sense to me. But guess what? When I do the next video and I update it, I could actually make sure I highlight that even more, because I could amplify that idea. And what I also do is I then craft that storyline. You say the same thing over and over and over again, and that's how you get better at it. But if you just wait to that TED talk and you get ready for your keynote speech, what's going to happen is you're never going to get that opportunity, because they don't think that you're the person that could come on stage and own the stage.
Mm.
So you got to start like putting it out there, and then you'll like almost, it's like, number one, fail fast. Number two, fail forward.
Yeah.
And then number three, it's only a failure if you quit.
Yeah.
So you want to fail fast, fail forward, and then don't quit, because if you quit, that's when it actually is a failure.
Yeah. Spoken like a true coach. Coach Cav. Dude, this is so good. I'm like fired up right now. How can people connect with you, see the work that you're doing, follow the journey?
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty easy to contact, and I think the easiest way to win people over is comment on the value that you receive. So if Ryan has brought value to you today through this conversation with me, then leave a 5-star review, have a conversation with yourself, and document that in writing, and we are going to see it. So sometimes people are like, how do I get in touch with you? I was like, well, first of all, what do you need? Be very clear on that. I'm a coach,
Yeah.
so I can't help somebody if I don't know where we're taking them. And it's really easy for me to say, hey, point you in the right direction if I'm not the right fit. But if I am the right fit, if you're a high performer and you're trying to lead a company like a sports team, that's kind of what I'm really good at on the coaching level. If you're a small business and you're trying to build your brand, we build small business websites at sites at scale. We've worked. We just celebrated our 11th year, company anniversary. If you need to make sure that you're seen online through attention by way of social media or through SEO, and you want to get seen on Google, that's our wheelhouse. That's what we do. Now, from a coaching perspective, we run a coaching group, and when I do consulting with people, it's all about like the ace in the hole, right? As a coach, it's like you got to have accountability. You got to have community because being around other people is valuable. Ryan talks about his group at the mastermind level where there's a group of creator and they're helping them build their business. The community is actually going to help fast track your problems because they've made those mistakes already. And you don't want one person that's made all of those mistakes because if you listen to one person that's made all the mistakes, it's like, well, that's a problem. But collectively, the group has made a
Right.
number of mistakes. And that's actually really valuable because the collective nature of a community allows for which is enhanced opportunities. The network that you're a part of is very powerful. And I think that you can actually fast track and collapse time when you're around the right people. So reach out to me, Instagram, Coach Cav, website, coachcav.com. You could go to sites at scale. If you're a small business and you're trying to understand like what's the best practices to grow your business, we have what's called a AAA framework: attention, attraction, and accessibility. There's 3 problems in most people's businesses. They don't have enough traffic. Attention solves that. They don't have conversions. They're not doing the right sales. Attraction solves that. It's a magnetic for the right people, those ELF clients that we talked about. And then delivery. They don't showcase the value to the customer because it's all janky in the customer service. And that's accessibility. You want to make it easy for people to do business with. So hopefully I could leave you with some of that value today. And I'm excited to see the people behind the scenes. BTS is some of the most viral content on the internet. Don't be afraid to show the work in progress because work in progress becomes work in profit for businesses if you showcase it. People want to be part of that journey with you. And I think you could get a lot of value out of bringing people into the journey. They feel like they're a part of it just as much as you building it with them.
That's rich, dude. So good. Wow. Thank you. Really, truly, this has been awesome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure, honor to be on, and look forward to supporting you in any way.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Grow Your Video Business podcast. If you got something out of today's conversation, do me a favor, share it with a friend or post it on your socials. Tag me at Ryan Coral or at Grow Your Video Business. I'd love to know what resonated with you. If you've got a question or takeaway, drop a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. You can also shoot me a message. I read every single one. And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We've got more stories, strategies, and behind the scenes insights coming your way to help you build a business that you love. Keep creating, keep sharing your story, and keep showing up. I'm cheering you on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.